Mexico dot gov.
Okay, so okay, I got EMNRD dot NM
.gov, as in
dot,
government, gov.
okay, all right. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Uh,
Mr.
All right,
Chambers,
thank you very much.
are you our court reporter today?
Yes, I am. Yes, sir.
Excellent. Thank you.
And I need everybody's name and what your
Well,
role is here today.
you can see my name. I'm not even going to try to print it out for you. You can see it underneath my name. I'm Gerasimos Rosados. I am the acting chair for the Oil Conservation Commission.
Okay, do this.
And I'm going to start this meeting. While you're doing that, Mr. Shavers, I will mute you in the interim. Can everybody hear me in Pecos Hall?
Yes, we can hear you.
Excellent. Thank you. Appreciate it. Good morning to everybody. My name is Gerasimos Rosados. I am the acting director for the Oil Conservation Division. I am also the acting chair for the Oil Conservation Commission. This is our continuing case for Empire and Goodnight. Are all parties present? I always start on the left-hand side of the room and I kind of pan my way through. Mr. Waymeyer, we'll start with you.
Empire's present. We're ready.
Excellent.
Excuse me, sir, for interrupting you, but you didn't want this part of it recorded?
Yeah, you should be pressing record on your side, sir.
Okay, well, yeah, let me get this done here, because like I said, well, maybe you didn't hear me say that, but I didn't get anybody's information, no names or anything of who would be appearing today, so I have to put all of that in.
So, Mr. Chair, just for Mr. Shaver, for the sake of time, what I'll do is I will have Sheila, who is one of our law clerks, send you the agenda. So if you could just put your email address into the chat for Teams, please. Sheila will send it to you. It'll give you the company names, the lawyers, and Sheila will also put the 3 names for the commissioners on there and our hearing officer's name for you. So you'll have it all in an email, okay?
All right.
Awesome. So if on your end, you wouldn't mind just pressing record or whatever you do on your side, and we'll get you all the information that you need.
All right. It is
Sheila,
recording now.
Excellent.
And just one other question before we get started here. Am I going to need to, well, at least someone sworn in, I assume that y'all take care of that. I just need to record everything, correct?
Correct. Our hearing officer will swear everybody in.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Shaver. Appreciate it. Sheila, if you wouldn't mind providing Mr. Shaver the information, I'd appreciate it. Okay, so we started with Mr. Waymeyer representing Empire. Can you just start again, Mr. Waymeyer, please?
Yes, sir. Corey Waymeyer for Empire, and we are ready.
Excellent. Thank you. Good night.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Adam Rankin with Holland Hart, with my colleague Nathan Jurgensen, appearing on behalf of Goodnight Midstream, and we're prepared to go forward today.
Excellent. Thank you. Rice.
Morning, Matt Beck on behalf of Rice Operating Company and Permian Line Service, LLC.
Excellent. Thank you. And Pilot.
Good morning, Miguel Suazo with the law firm Beatty & Wozniak, appearing on behalf of Pilot Water.
Thank you, Mr. Suazo. I will do also the roll call for us. As I stated, I'm Gerasimos Rosados. I am the acting division director for the Oil Conservation Division. I'm also the acting chair for the Oil Conservation Commission. This time I will start off with Mr. Lampkin, if you wouldn't mind for your roll call, please.
Yeah, my name is Balin Lampkin. I'm the designee of the Commissioner of Public Lands.
Excellent. And Dr. Mpoma.
I am Dr. William Mpoma, Professor Petroleum Engineering from New Mexico Tech, and also the designee of the Energy Secretary. Thank you.
Excellent. So we've done.
Excuse me for interrupting you again, sir. Sorry about that, but it says that the chat is turned off for this meeting, so I am not able to put anything in the chat.
Okay.
Why don't we get it to him on the first mid-morning break?
Yeah, it's a deal.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rip.
Okay.
I appreciate it. So, Mr. Shaver, if you would just hang on when we go to break at around 10:30, and just coordinate with Sheila, get her, she'll get you, she'll get from you your email address, and she can send you all this information. Okay?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. So we are here, as I stated, for our continuing consolidated cases by Goodnight Midstream and Empire, New Mexico. The case numbers are case numbers 24123 and then 23614 through 17. Then we have case number 23775 and then case numbers 24018 through 24020 and 24025. Mr. Hearing Officer, we transfer our hearing back over to you.
Thank you, Chairman Rosatos. Did you have, I think you mentioned that you had a lunch constraint today that needed to be met?
I do. Thank you for reminding me. I do have a lunch constraint today. Everybody, I apologize. I need to finish at 11:30 and I need 2 hours. We'll be back at 1:30. So lunch will be from 11:30 to 1:30 today. Thank you, Mr. Hearing Officer.
Sure. All right. So given that, let's plan on breaking at 10:15 for our morning break. We'll come back at 10:30 and go for another hour. With that said, Mr. Waymeyer, I'm not inviting any more of a prolonged remainder of your cross-examination than you no doubt came up with overnight. If at all possible, if it would be nice if you could, conclude your cross-examination this morning so we could start with commission questions this afternoon. The thinking being that we will finish with Preston McGuire today. Whenever that happens, the plan would be to adjourn for the day and give you all what remains, if anything, of the afternoon to, put the finishing touches on your respective closing arguments, which we could start tomorrow morning. Anyway, that's the aspirational game plan for the day. Mr. Waymeyer, what do you think? Is that unrealistic from your perspective?
It's certainly something to shoot at.
Well, I guess that's the best I can expect from you. All right, fair enough. Do we have Mr. McGuire on deck?
I believe we do.
I guess when he starts talking, he'll show up on my screen.
Hello, I'm here.
There he is. All right, you're way back on page number 3. Mr. Shavers, just for your edification, we are into the cross-examination of a witness named Preston, Preston, last name McGuire. He should show up on your screen. Okay?
Thank you, sir.
And the lawyer who's questioning him is Corey Waymeyer, Wehmeyer. Mr. Waymeyer, take it away.
Thank you.
I'll just remind you, Mr. McGuire, you're still under oath.
Mr. McGuire, I think I'm getting a little bit of, I thought I had feedback. Now I don't. Okay. Mr. McGuire, why don't we start as a reservoir engineer? Can you explain this equation and how you used it in your work as part of this case?
No, not at this time. I'd have to remind myself of what all of these variables are.
The most basic of material balance equations that would be taught and known off of top of mind by any reservoir engineer, you can't help us at all with.
Not at this current moment.
Let's talk about just some graphs. You're familiar with a best fit curve an R squared analysis?
Yes, sir.
As we look at these data points, these data points line up pretty close. If you were going to draw a line through them as part of an R squared best fit, don't they?
They appear to, but there's no scales on this. I have no idea what I'm looking at.
You can assume a 1-to-1. Now, if you just put the R squared through it, a 0.9227, does that look pretty close?
What data is this?
Well, we're just talking in the abstract. If you're at a mathematics class or an engineering class, if you draw the line through this, does that R squared of 0.9227 look like what any auto-generated best fit line should look like there, 0.922? Just eyeballing it, you can see that's a pretty darn good fit.
Yeah, it appears to be a decent fit, but I have no idea what this data is.
With respect to R squared ranges, would you agree that generally something between 0.7 and 1.0 would be considered a good fit? If you're in a physical science where systems are more predictable, something over 0.9 is often expected?
Not always. No, it's not always expected. No.
If you'd like to disagree, again, over 0.9 is not a good fit as far as you're concerned on a best fit curve.
That wasn't your question. I agree that a 0.9 would be considered a good fit.
Do you see this star that I've placed here on the best fit line?
I do.
That, again, just eyeballing this, that star would be a pretty good fit, wouldn't it? Nearly dead on.
Yeah, it's close to the fit curve, to the fit line.
The two red dots would not be good fits, would they? Just eyeballing this thing as an engineer, you could say something's not fitting the trend.
Yes, but I would need more context as to why those two dots fall off of the trend.
You would want to do a scientific analysis as to why they're not on trend?
Sure.
And I assume as a scientist, if it was something material, you would have performed that analysis, right?
Yeah, I mean, that would be something that I would want to look at for sure.
Now, Steve Brewington, he's a educated licensed engineer. He's actually out of San Antonio. Do you know Steve?
Yes, we've worked together.
Have you met Steve before?
Not in person, but I've been on multiple Teams calls with Steve.
Mr. Brewington, very good engineer, isn't he?
Yeah, I have no reason to think that he's not.
So here we're working on the Rhino well to put everybody into context on the time frame. Do you see this is taken as of October 19th, 2024?
That's what the date says on this workover report. Yes, sir.
Mr. Brewington's rep has arrived at location and he used the Encore tool to separate and remove the tree from tubing hanger. So here, as we just take us back in time to October 19th, 24, we know there's no injection occurring in the Rhino and that the tree's been at the wellhead's literally been removed, right?
That's what it's, yeah, that would, yes.
So I would hope we can agree there's no injection happening on that day.
Yes, sir.
Now,
well, I don't know if there was injection right before they took so I can't speak for the whole day. No.
Now, so that the commission knows how old this well is, when was the Rhino well drilled and completed?
It was originally drilled to the Devonian in 2018.
When in 2018? Early or late?
Late, I believe. Mid to late, if I'm remembering right.
So to just put this into perspective, this wellhead, that Christmas tree is less than 6 years old at that point in time, yes?
That would be correct, yes.
Have you ever had to replace an entire Christmas tree on a well so young?
Other than this one, maybe. None come to mind, but I wouldn't be surprised if we had to.
In your experience, this would be unusual.
Not necessarily.
Additionally, you've already got tubing, yellow band tubing on site. So do you see at the bottom that they've unloaded 119 joints of lined yellow band tubing?
Yes, sir. I see that.
And tubing is not inexpensive. You're not going to purchase and have that tubing already arranged on site unless you know you have a tubing leak and need to replace the string of tubing.
That's not true.
You would replace less than 6-year-old tubing as part of ordinary course?
Yeah, that's pretty standard that you want to keep your equipment new and fresh.
There's also identification here of several damaged pins with threads starting to break and separate, liner damage on several joints as well as corrosion. Did not see any holes. And on the Christmas tree, it's described as having lots of scale and rust on top tubing and flange. Sent trees for repair and cleanup. Why would there be so much scale and rust on a less than 6-year-old Christmas tree? And why would there already be liner damage on joints, corrosion, and damaged pins and threads?
Corrosion is a very common issue in all oil and gas wells. It's not uncommon at all.
How frequently is Empire having to replace its well heads and its tubing strings?
They have a lot of issues with their wells for sure.
Now, let's move to the next date. Do you see in the daily workover report, we know there's been no injection happening since at least October 19th, 2024. We're nearly an entire month later.
Mhm.
Can you explain how a wireline fluid measurement, that's going to be dead on, isn't it?
It should be, yes.
The tool has gone down the hole, and when you contact that fluid, you know it's exactly at 750 feet subsurface, don't you?
That would probably be true. Yeah, I have no reason to think that they missed the fluid level.
And at that point in time, the well has been shut in an entire 25 days, hasn't it? At
I
least.
haven't done the math, but I'll take your word for it.
You will agree with me that a wireline fluid level reading is going to be much more accurate than a fluid gun, isn't it?
Not necessarily.
So we were talking on the Rhino. Let's first just zoom in here. And again, you didn't produce this document to us, did you? The fluid level reading of 750 feet in the Rhino? Goodnight did not produce this document to Empire in the case, did it?
I think we did provide some of the workover reports to Empire for that.
In fact, the workover report, the only ones y'all would give over are the two I'm publishing now.
Mm-hmm.
Empire made demand for the remainder of the workover report, and y'all refused to give over the remainder of the workover report. Why would you not just produce the entire workover report on the Rhino well, which is in the EMSU, when it was expressly requested? You give us 2 pages, we want the rest.
Mr. Hearing Officer, I'm going to object to the line of question. This was addressed between counsel. The discovery request was for documents reflecting corrosion. We provided the documents that reflected corrosion, and if counsel had issues with it, they could have and should have gone to the hearing officer, but they didn't. This is not a question for Mr. McGuire.
We're not going to revisit discovery issues, Mr. Waymeyer, so the objection is sustained.
As we look at the fluid level from surface graph that we've seen before, you actually used this graph in your sworn testimony to begin the examination, didn't you?
I did.
And so do you see over on the left the fluid level from surface 750 feet?
I see that. Yes, sir.
And we see that what we've highlighted is the Rhino well. And again, this is off of your exhibit, isn't it?
Well, it's Empire's exhibit, but yes, I republished it.
And you're the one that swore to it as part of the opening testimony with Mr. Rankin.
I did.
If we look at the Rhino well specifically, so do you see this data point and this data point, the two I'm indicating at way down here?
I do.
What you told the commission was that in the Rhino well on April 7th, 2025, it was at 858 subsurface, and on July 20th, 2024, it was at 868 subsurface, didn't you?
Yes, sir. Those were the measurements that were taken.
With what?
A sonic fluid level tool.
How was it calibrated?
You'd have to ask the company that owns and operates the tool.
Have I accurately plotted the location as we complete the graph that you started in your direct test? Have I actually plotted the data point for the wireline measurement by Mr. Brewington on November 13th, 2024 at 750 subsurface after the well had been shut in for 25 entire days at least?
I guess I'd have to review the workover report to make sure that they didn't put it back together and we injected. But I mean, this data is clearly anomalous given the other data that we have. So I'd want to investigate that for sure and understand if that could have been a typo, could have been 850. That would be right on the line. So I would want to investigate that and talk to Steve about that.
In fact, that data is not in any shape, form, or fashion anomalous. It's precisely on the R square best fit line. And the two data points that are anomalous are the two red ones from the earlier slide. The two data points, as we talk about anomalies using your word, can you agree as a scientist that the anomalous points is not the star that's precisely on the best fit line, but the anomalous points would be the two red ones?
Yeah, can we go back to the data that shows the shut-in times?
I'm sorry, I'm not understanding which data you want.
The figure that shows the Empire figure that I used.
You're talking about this?
Yes, sir.
Sure.
So I can see that for the Rhino, all of the fluid level measurements before that, the well was shut in for approximately 20 minutes. And then after that, it was shut in for longer. So you would expect that the reservoir would have more time to bleed out into to equilibrate with the overall larger aquifer. I wish those wells would have been shut in longer before we took those fluid measurements, but I was not overseeing that at the time and didn't make that recommendation. But that data feels like the 750 feels like a typo to me, and it should probably be 850 and be much more aligned with the two data points.
So Mr. Brewington has this one wrong, even though it fits precisely onto the best fit curve.
He might, but I don't think that the earliest data points are really good representations. It's the data that we had, and I can only speak to the data that we have.
As we just talk about credibility, do you see where the wells begin coming off of a best fit line? It's kind of right around here at November of 2023 is where the wells go off of the best fit line.
And
Isn't that true?
That's true, and that's at the point when we decided to shut in the wells longer before taking the fluid measurements.
And that's just coincidental that it happened at the November 2023 timeframe when the revocation was filed in the OCD.
No, that's also the time that I took over the project and made that recommendation to shut in the fluid level or to shut in the wells for longer before taking the fluid measurement.
In using a fluid gun, do you understand the importance of counting you understand that fluid gun is keying off of basically the casing threads?
I'm not an expert in how the fluid gun works. I rely on the experts for that they will return an accurate measurement.
Do you understand the importance of actually counting the pup joints? If you're going to use that fluid gun and you're going to count off the threads, that you have to have an accurate count of the pup joints and their precise lengths?
Sure, and all of that data was provided to the consultant that ran this.
Now, with respect to the string, you would come out, the 108 joints of tubing, those are 39.55 in length. Do you see that?
I see what's been typed in the Excel sheet here. Can you show me where that number comes from?
Straight off of the drilling report on the left where the tubing composition was counted.
Where does it say? Oh, so you guys did the math for the average length?
We did. And
Okay.
if instead, no, it's not the average, each one of the 108 joints of tubing is 39.55.
That sounds
You
about
understand
right.
that?
That sounds about right.
Do you know that counting the actual threads or collars on the way down, it comes out to 22? And that if somebody just took 39.55 as the average tubing length and you recreate the math, it would put you off by 102 feet. It would put you off at 870 feet, which is 2 feet off of the fluid gun measurement that you came up with in this chart on the right that we looked at over here. Do you see the 868?
Yes, sir. I see that.
If you just did 39.55 against 22 count of collars, you come to 870, which is 2 feet off of what you had reported in the Rhino, right?
Yeah, that would be that's a difference of 2. Yes.
If you actually calibrated the fluid gun to account for those shorter pup joints, you would have come up with a fluid reading level of 752.03, which is off of Mr. Brewington's wire line measurement by a mere 2 feet. Do you think this is just some great mathematical coincidence? Or do you think that your fluid gun readings have not been properly calibrated and that the fluid level is much higher in the well?
I think the fluid measurements are accurate. I trust that I was ensured that the data was calibrated correctly before each one of those fluid levels was taken. They asked for the wellbore information and we provided it to them. So I have no reason to think that it's not accurate.
If the commission wanted to know how y'all are calibrating your fluid guns, you have no idea, do you?
Yeah, I would have to refer to the expert on that.
But you would agree that the 750 wire line measurement from Mr. Brewington, this will be the last question I have for you on it. Mr. Brewington's wire line measurement after the well's been shut in for nearly a month was just about dead on to the best fit curve, isn't it?
I think it's anomalous given the other data points and would want to understand the reason. I've talked to Steve about that. Again, I think it feels like a typo to me.
You reported here to the OCD that the tubing was only potentially leaking. You knew that tubing was leaking because you already had 108 joints of replacement tubing on site before the workover ever started, didn't you?
No, we keep extra tubing at our yard. If we buy it in bulk, we get a better deal on it. So we keep extra tubing at the yard. We have tubing right now and we don't have any workovers in the foreseeable future.
This was one of the slides you talked on. I just want to make sure that the commissioners understand your methodology here in terms of calculating these gradients. Mm-hmm. Is it true that, I mean, these perfs, they can be 1,000 feet apart from the top perf to the bottom perf. Those can be 1,000 feet away from one another, can't they?
Yes, they can. Yep.
You are not selecting, in terms of calculating the gradient, you are not selecting a particular data point within the reservoir, knowing where you are and calculating from there. What you're taking is you're just taking a mid perf. aren't you?
Yes, sir. That's what I did.
That is also not sound engineering practice where you've got 1,000 feet of perfs to calculate gradients off of a randomly selected mid perf, is it?
Well, the calculation would be the same, whether you use the top, mid, or base, it would still come out to the same gradient.
You're using the same gradient across all of these different wells, aren't you?
Yes, because the hydrostatic is equal the entire time.
These wells even have perfs nearly 1,000 feet. As you calculate midpoint perf, some of these wells are your midpoints that you're using the same gradient on are nearly 1,000 feet apart, aren't they?
Well, I calculated the gradient off of that midpoint, yes.
Yeah, but again, to just illustrate, the midpoint perf that you're using here on the Piper 2 is 4,368. The midpoint perf you're using here for the TED is 5,432. Those are over 1,000 feet apart, but you're using the same gradient.
I calculated they obviously didn't calculate to the same number.
What pressure gradient are you coming up for here for the San Andres?
It's on the page.
Can you just, we need it into the record. What is
at that point, well, which well? Do you want me to be specific or do you want me to take the average?
Let's just take the average is fine for this exercise.
It says 0.381 on the figure.
Okay, so 0.381 is what you say the San Andres pressure gradient is?
In July of 2024 on average, yes, sir.
This is October of 2024. Do you see the timing?
Yes, sir.
Do you understand that this is being taken off of a pressure bomb used by Empire?
Yes, sir.
What was the pressure here on October 8th of 2024 in the Grayberg that was actually measured?
At what depth?
4050?
950.860.
Which would be a 0.235 gradient, yes?
I could double check the math, but that sounds about right. Yeah.
Which would be a significantly lower pressure than the underlying San Andres that you just calculated, isn't that right?
That's right. At this particular location, this is one well out of, I guess there's 400 wells in the field.
This is part of your sworn statement. You say the high pressure zone is in the Grayberg. So flow would be into the low pressure San Andres if the formation were in communication. You literally swore to this OCC that the pressure was exactly upside down, that the Grayberg had higher pressure than the San Andres, didn't you?
Yeah, I would point to all of the shut-in pressures that Empire provided to us. That all of those wells that we had shut in with pressure at the surface. That's completely different than all of our SWDs in the San Andres.
You know that is 100% totally false. When you offered that testimony to the commission just now, you knew that statement was 100% false, didn't you? And you said it anyway.
No, that's not true.
It has been explained to you in the sworn testimony from Mr. West, and you had that before coming. You read Mr. West's all of his sworn testimony, didn't you?
I did.
And there was an algorithm in the system on what you want to use as Grayberg pressures. And any time that it was showing over 1,500 barrels injected.
Mr. Hearing Officer, Mr. Waymire is testifying. Objection to the form of the question.
Mr. Waymire, rephrase, please. Try and simplify it.
Mr. McGuire, you read Mr. West's detailed identification of precisely why there were erroneous pressure readings being reported, didn't you?
Well, that's very convenient that Empire doesn't want to rely on this data. We asked specifically in Discovery, what are the shut-in pressures of your injection wells in the Grayburg? They gave us this document. It says min shut-in pressure reviewed. So I took it at face value. I think that I have no reason to believe that this is inaccurate.
What question do you think I just, what?
If they didn't tell us that they don't have shut-in pressures, they provided this document to us for that discovery request.
Mr. McGuire, what question do you think I just asked you?
Go ahead and restate it.
It is incredibly important that you answer the questions presented. If there is a problem with the question, your lawyer objects, and Mr. Harwood will make a call on that. But this is not a game. You are to answer the question asked unless Mr. Harwood excuses you from it. Do you understand that?
Sure. Go ahead and re-ask the question.
The question was, did you read Mr. West's detailed and sworn statement about how there is zero pressure on those wells?
On all of them?
Yes, upon shut-in.
I don't know if he said that specifically.
What was the explanation that Mr. West gave in his sworn statements to this OCC about the data that you now want to swear about that makes zero scientific sense whatsoever?
I guess this testimony speaks for itself. We could look at it.
Do you not recall? You literally came in here and swore about data that you had a sworn explanation on from Empire, and you don't know what the explanation is?
I'm not going to try to quote Mr. West. I might get that wrong, and I don't feel comfortable quoting it here under oath.
You can't even summarize your general understanding of how Mr. West explained it.
I think he said, yeah, I'd rather just let the testimony speak for itself.
Okay. In terms of any scientific basis to disagree with what Mr. West explained in his sworn statement in terms of the algorithms in the system, in how the algorithms created the incorrect reading, could you offer the commission any explanation about how that sworn statement from Mr. West is wrong?
Well, they didn't say that this data was wrong when they provided it to us.
Mr. McGuire, I'm talking about the sworn statement from Mr. West, and you have opinions on Mr. West and his work. Can you explain to the commission how his statement about the algorithm and the erroneous readings that were created by the computer printout are wrong?
I don't remember what he said about an algorithm. No.
Are you honestly still here after seeing all of this data going to swear to this commission that the pressure in the Grayburg is higher than the pressure in the San Andres? Yes or no?
For the data that was provided to us, yes. I believe that the Grayburg is a higher pressure. It's been under water flood. They've been doing pressure maintenance there.
The Verlander well, earlier, you remember in your earlier testimony today, yesterday, I said, where does the acid go? And you go to the high permeability spots. That's where the acid's going to go. You remember you opined on that?
Yes, I remember that testimony.
As we talk about the Verlander, for example, how much, we're turning now to talk about your mud theory. What is the PSI per foot of mud, the mud you used in the Verlander?
Well, the density is 10.2, so I could calculate it. Uh, 0.53.
That would be higher than the Grayburg as measured with a literal pressure bomb, and higher than the San Andres that you calculated, isn't it?
That's true, yes, but we didn't lose circulation in the Grayburg.
Okay, my question, you say the mud is important to something. That would be higher than Grayburg and higher than San Andres. True?
Yes, it looks like we were drilling overbalanced based on that data, yes.
And this was the slide you were illustrating about the alleged total loss of circulation, right?
Yes, sir.
Can you help the commission? The idea that mud losses would be used to pick tops or to opine on effective barrier seals. Where in literature would we read that? Where would we find it?
I was using that information to delineate the two different reservoir systems.
My question is, the idea that that is any kind of scientific methodology for what's before the OCC here, where would we find that in a treatise, a textbook, SPE paper, PhD dissertation, anywhere?
I think it's pretty standard in picking reservoirs that if there are two different pressures, there are two different reservoirs, and we were trying to pick the two different reservoirs that have totally different pressures associated with them.
This is just an excerpt out of Applied Drilling Engineering. Lost circulation additives. Lost circulation is defined as the loss of drilling fluid or cement from the well to subsurface formations. This condition is detected at the surface when the flow rate out of the annulus is less than the pump rate into the well. Lost circulation occurs when, one, extremely high permeability formations are encountered, such as a gravel bed, oyster bed, or vulgular limestone, or two, a fractured formation is encountered or created because of excessive wellbore pressure. In terms of vulgular limestone, that's actually described in the San Andreas. It isn't in the core reports. Isn't vulgular limestone described?
Not limestone, but vulgular dolomite is.
Well, didn't you draw in somebody? We learned yesterday for the first time that the gray is supposed to represent limestone. Is there also limestone in there?
There's a few, yeah, but it's predominantly dolomite.
Isn't that inconsistent with the rock facies that Dr. Davidson was insistent this was limestone or worse? Now you're saying that there's not much limestone in the San Andreas?
I don't think that's accurately characterizing Dr. Davidson's testimony.
In terms of comparisons of permeability in the Grayburg versus the San Andreas, have you done that?
I've looked at the core report for the Grayburg, and so I guess the question is have I compared the permeabilities in the Grayburg versus the San Andreas?
That's exactly the question.
I haven't quantified it.
Yeah, and so again, you want to tell a pressure story. I've shown you a engineering publication that identifies fluid loss as being associated with extremely high permeability formations. And in fact, throughout your sworn testimony, you talk about high permeability in the San Andreas. As the commissioners read this over and over, you talk about high permeability streaks in the San Andreas, don't you?
That's correct, yep.
Why on earth are mud losses not explained by high permeability streaks, which you've opined on are throughout the San Andreas?
You can have a high permeability streak and it not lose circulation if the pressure in the reservoir is higher than the hydrostatic of the drilling mud.
Where's the publication that says that? If they don't want to take your word for it here and want to see some scientific discussion of it.
That's physics.
I was gonna ask you a bunch of water chemistry questions, but and I know you swore to them, but since we have you agreeing yesterday you're not a water chemistry expert, I'm gonna just skip this. But I do want to focus on a couple things that you said yesterday very briefly. You said you're treating the water before you inject it. What specific chemicals are you treating this water for or with?
Yeah, so there are chemicals that come from the chemical provider, and they don't say exactly what's in it. I think that's under they don't want to give away their trade secrets there. We've provided those chemicals in discovery to Empire.
What's the name of the chemical that you're putting down?
I can't remember off the top of my head. I think might have this wrong, but I think Halliburton makes it. I don't know. We've provided that. I can't think of it off the top of my head right now.
So you're the all vertical pipe guy, you're the all downhole guy for Goodnight, and you don't have any clue what chemicals you're sticking into Empire San Andreas.
Objection asked and answered.
Overruled.
No, that's all done at the surface by the surface operations team.
Okay, chemicals is not a downhole aspect of SWD injection.
The chemicals are put into the flow stream at the surface.
So we can't have a discussion of what chemicals are going down. What are you treating for with the mystery chemicals?
One of the primary ones is a scale inhibitor.
You're treating for scale inhibitor?
No, well, we're treating with a scale inhibitor.
No, what are you treating for? By putting the chemicals in, what good things are going to happen beneath the surface of the earth in your well?
Well, we try to prevent scaling downhole. It's from plugging off our perf or plugging off our disposal zone.
Yesterday, I heard you tell Mr. Rankin in your opening testimony that you're treating to lower the TDSs. Do you remember that testimony?
Yes.
How on earth do you treat to lower TDSs?
You'd have to ask the folks that run that chemical treatment program. I've just looked at the data before it goes through treatment, the testing of the water before it goes through treatment, and the testing of the water after it comes out of that treatment facility, and it lowers the TDS.
Do you remember I asked yesterday, what does acid do to anhydrite, and you didn't know?
Yeah, I don't think it breaks down anhydrite.
But yesterday you didn't know. Isn't that geology 101? Acid doesn't break down anhydrite, but salt water will.
Not salt water.
What about prolonged flushing of salt water?
Not with salt water, no. The salt water's super saturated, so it doesn't want to react with anything else after that point.
Going to keep working through as we talk. And you're saying the TDS is, did I hear that right yesterday? They started 250,000 TDS.
That's the data that I've seen coming from the field. Yes, that's very, very, very high.
And then what you're sticking into Empire San Andreas is about 130,000 TDS.
That would be accurate. Yes, sir.
Still very, very high, isn't it?
It depends on your definition of very high, but yeah, that's salty water.
How about if we compare it to the TDSs in the San Andreas before you start sticking TDSs down there? In comparison to the native San Andreas water, what you're sticking down at 120,000 and higher TDSs is very, very high, isn't it?
What do you think that the native San Andreas water is?
You're the one offered the chemistry opinions. What do you think it is?
I've seen it be highly variable.
What's the mean?
I think I have it in my testimony, maybe 30 to 40,000 TDS with a large overall average. I'm remembering that correctly.
So you can tell the commission that into Empire San Andreas, you were sticking in TDSs that are multiples of 3 or more times the native water.
Yes, yeah, just as every other saltwater disposal well is.
Now, yesterday, you didn't know that you had to replace an entire Christmas tree in the Rhino well. You asked, can you show it to me? And I said, yeah, I will. This is another document. You can tell the commission you didn't produce this document either, did you?
I don't know, but I'll take your word for it.
You see the entry on October 22nd, 2024 out of the daily drilling report?
What you have highlighted, yes, sir.
Due to severe pitting, entire injection tree was replaced with 5,000 PSI EE 0.5 main valves with Xylan coating by Encore. So you can tell the commission now that I've shown it to you on your Rhino well, and this is just 7-8 months ago, right? Did you have responsibility for Goodnight for this particular well at this particular time?
I do, but I'm not responsible for the surface mechanical configurations or mechanical work.
And if they wanted to know where else had you ever had to junk a tree within 6 years of it being put into operation, you can't recall any other location, can you?
I'm sure it happened, but I can't recall a specific at this very moment.
How do you explain as a matter of chemistry how an entire joint, an entire string of tubing and an entire Christmas tree had to be replaced so quickly because of pitting, coating, scaling, corrosion?
It doesn't necessarily have to be chemistry based. It can be mechanical based. The velocity of this water is very high as it goes down because of the injection capabilities of these wells.
Speed of water creates corrosion.
Not corrosion. It could cause pitting.
I'm going to keep moving through. I could spend hours on this stuff, but I'm not. I'm going to keep moving. But here also, it's in your casing. This is another document you didn't produce. Casing from 100 feet to surface appears to either be scaled up or corroded and not allowing test packer to properly seal. How common is it that in a well so young, your casing is so affected by scale and corrosion that you can't even set a packer?
It's very common in oil and gas wells or saltwater disposal wells.
Is that a chemical reaction?
Scaling is a chemical reaction. Yes.
Can you explain to the commission why that chemical reaction is happening here?
There's a lot of different reasons. I haven't looked into it in detail for this particular one.
So then how can you honestly, in your papers that you filed with the commission, tell them that Empire's, all of their existing wells are safe? The wells that they have drilled in the Grayburg and the wells that they have drilled in the San Andres. If you don't even understand, and again, this is stuff you've sworn to, and you can't even explain why this is happening in your own well.
Well, these wells are not in communication with the Grayburg wells above them. There's no evidence of that.
This workover one workover cost $623,000 on a well that was 6 years old.
That's what the document says.
And all of these problems in this less than 6-year-old well, all of those to get to a $623,000 AFE in one well less than 6 years old was all because of scaling, corrosion, pitting caused by chemical reactions. Isn't that right?
I wouldn't agree that it's all due to chemical reactions.
Moving over to your Scully State well. This is a well you're familiar with. This is your well. Can you tell the commissioners where is it?
It's a few miles south of the EMSU.
Do you see that on our graph we have plotted the barrels of water per day injected in blue, and wellhead injection pressures in yellow dots? You can tell the commission this would be an example in your own well where your daily injection volumes are going down, but wellhead pressures are going up.
That's what this graph depicts. Yes, sir. But that's not necessarily due to scale or chemicals.
As we come back to sulfates, you know that the San Andres is sulfate rich, right?
Well, it depends on how you define rich.
As you go through the San Andres, it's also not uniform. The highest sulfates are up towards the upper San Andres, aren't they?
I haven't seen any data that shows that.
Well, here we have injection formation water analysis. I think this is your data. And do you see that you've measured this in the Ernie Banks, the Sosa, the Nolan Ryan, the Yaz, and you've got these about 2,000 and higher sulfates?
Yeah, so are these from the swab data? Yeah, okay, I see that we have swab data, OCD well file. Yeah, okay, yes.
And again, what you testified to yesterday was that the injection in the well that we looked at, it wasn't even going into the bottom perfs, was it? We saw the spinner reading. The bottom half was getting none of the injection, was it?
Didn't look like it, yeah.
It's all happening up at the upper part where you actually measured in the formation water analysis having the highest sulfates. Yes.
I guess, so when we took a swab sample, you perforate the entire well, and then you drop your swab cup in and you get a fluid sample. So it's a mixing of all of those open perfs.
High TDS environments, let me just see if you'll agree with me on this. High TDS environments, particularly those rich in chlorides, exacerbate H2S corrosion by promoting pitting and stress corrosion cracking. Chlorides can penetrate protective films, creating localized anodic sites vulnerable to H2S attack. Do you think that's a fair statement about the effect of high TDS on mixing with chlorides and high sulfates?
Maybe. I mean, I agree. That's what this document says. Where is this document from?
I don't know, but just given that you've sworn on water chemistry, I don't think this is a controversial issue. Does this seem controversial to you?
Not necessarily, I guess. But maybe.
Now you know that the San Andreas water is being used today as makeup water as part of the properly permitted water flood that Empire owns and is operating in the Grayburg right now, right?
I don't think that they're really using it very much. My last review of the data, it hadn't been used for a few months. So to say that they're actively using it today, I cannot confirm.
You were not aware before offering this OCC sworn testimony that literally today they are still using San Andreas makeup water. That is where the water is coming from for their existing water flood that they're carrying out today.
Well, I guess Empire has said that they're really not using it very much anymore.
Where do you think the makeup water is coming from then? If they're not taking it out of the San Andreas, where do you think Empire is getting the water for its water flood?
I don't know if they're using makeup water. They might just be recycling all the water.
Some water is certainly recycled, but you can't recycle all of it. And San Andreas makeup water is being used. Additionally, with respect to a tertiary program in the Grayburg, which you've heard all of your experts testify there's an ROZ in the Grayburg, right?
There's a potential ROZ in the Grayburg.
You need water to conduct those tertiary operations, don't you?
Depends how you're going to implement it, but generally, yes.
And those minerals up there are 58% owned by the state of New Mexico and about 20% owned by the BLM, aren't they?
I don't know who owns the royal or the minerals.
Where do you think Empire is going to get the water for the tertiary recovery in the Grayburg?
Well, they have that one water supply well, so they could definitely use that one, but they can't get any more permits for additional water.
On the water supply well, where does that water suck out of?
It's completed in the water management interval.
What the San Andreas, right?
Yes, sir.
Where you're sticking the high TDS and high chloride water.
That's true, but the one water supply well that's left is the most distal well from our injection, and there's no indication that we've had any impact on that water up there.
As we look at the manner in which the existing Grayburg water flood is being conducted, do you see that if you put in one drop of water, the way the system is set up, it spreads through the entire EMSU.
Go ahead.
It literally, one barrel of water comes up out of the San Andreas after you've injected your TDSs and chlorides into it. And the way the system is configured, it will literally make its way through the entire EMSU, touching every single Grayburg producing well and injector well. Do you understand that?
I'll take your word for it.
Doesn't that seem like that should be a cause of concern to the OCC and to Empire?
Not if the water chemistry of that well is not is remaining constant.
But you're not the guy, you're not the water chemistry expert. You're not the right guy to talk to on that.
Well, Empire hasn't provided any data that it is changing.
This actually came out of Mr. Knight's. I thought this was interesting. The subsequent unitization and operation of the EMSU involved the combined geologic engineering and operational expertise of world-class major oil companies, such as Conoco, I think he meant to say Chevron, Exxon, and Gulf. Do you agree that Chevron, Exxon, and Gulf at their respective times of operatorship of the EMSU would have been geologic engineering and operational experts?
Sure, I could agree with that.
Do you agree that XTO Exxon had calculated, we're moving now to talk about RAS, had calculated 912 million barrels of oil in place in a RAS in the San Andreas?
Yeah, that's what the document says, and they walked away from it. That's just marketing material.
I don't, help me. How did they walk away from it if they sold it for tens of millions of dollars in positive revenue, plus the avoidance of tens of millions of dollars of P&A liability? How is that walking? They plugged all the wells and released the leases?
No, they sold it so they didn't have to.
They sold it for positive value to Empire, didn't they?
Yeah, they probably made some money on it. That's your question. But they didn't sell it primarily for the ROZ. That was a upside potential. Again, that's just marketing material. It's not proven. They walked away from it, and they said in the Empire agreed in the purchase and sale agreement that they could not rely on those statements.
You said it was sold primarily for the existing Grayburg PDP?
Yes.
I want to talk about the remainder then. What allocation of value is on the San Andreas RAS?
I don't know what allocation of value the Empire put on that.
But apparently two parties arm's length assigned value to the San Andreas RAS before leases exchanged hands. Yes?
I bet XTO was very happy about that. Their marketing material worked.
Is it your testimony for Goodnight that Exxon was lying to Empire about the ROZ in the San Andreas?
Didn't say they were lying, but it was sold as upside potential in marketing material and is unproven. I mean, yeah, it's just marketing material.
When you say unproven, are you now moving over to SEC concepts? Because I'm probably going to have some more questions for you on unproven.
I'm not. Nope. It's the ROZ has not been proven to be it's not proven.
I spent so much time with Dr. Davidson trying to figure out in terms of rock facies selection. And did you hear Mr. Burkhead's testimony and Mr. Bailey's testimony about this being a shallow water environment?
Yeah, there's been a lot of testimony. I can't remember everything, but I'll take your word for it.
And I just want the commission to see that we can take Goodnight, and you were the corporate representative when You've been the corporate representative of Goodnight from the jump, haven't you?
From the jump of what?
Of this entire case.
Mr. Hearing Officer, I don't know if Mr. Waymire is asking Mr. McGuire if he's testifying as a 30B6 witness or if he's testifying in his individual capacity. So I just want to make that clear for the record.
Mr. Waymire, can you rephrase?
Mr. McGuire, you're the only Goodnight human that's going to testify in this case, right?
That's accurate.
Did Goodnight choose you for this role?
To be testifying here?
Yes.
Came with the job responsibilities that I took.
You swore here, and you are an educated geologist. Additionally, given the nature of the San Andres being deposited on a shelf slope with a rapidly increasing water depth to the west, the San Andres porosity diminishes very quickly just west of EMSU. So there you're talking about to the west of EMSU, right?
Yes.
This is due to a finer grain material, mud dominated, being deposited into the deeper water, which has little to no porosity, as opposed to the shallower water environment at EMSU, which allowed for porosity development.
Yeah.
As discussed,
Shallow. Sorry, I don't mean to step over you. Go ahead.
As discussed above, this is due to a loss of porosity and permeability in the San Andres as you move west due to a lithology change because of deeper water deposition. You know that you've sworn several places that the EMSU is a shallow water depositional environment at San Andres, haven't you?
Well, in this particular instance, I said it was shallower than the mud-dominated stuff off the structure. That doesn't mean it's a shallow water environment with grainstones and things of that nature.
Do you see the formula in the bottom left? We're working off of Mr. Burkhead's slide here. Do you see that formula?
I do, and I don't think this is Mr. Burkhead's slide. I believe this is Dr. Davidson's slide.
Well, I think, yeah, you may be right on that. I thought we added something to this one, but the formula in the bottom left, can you explain to the commissioners how that formula works and how you used it here in your methods?
I didn't use that. That's Dr. Davidson's SW model.
Can you explain how that formula works?
I would rely on the expert in petrophysics. I think he talked extensively about that.
So as we talk, if the commissioners go back and read your witness statements and they see pages and pages and pages about ROZ, you can't even explain how the formulas would work in terms of calculating water and oil saturations, can you?
I didn't calculate any of those, and all of my ROZ discussion was based on the core measurements.
With respect to core measurements, can you help the commissioners and explain what core adjustment factors you made for oil expulsion during depressurization as the core was removed?
Mr. Hearing Officer, objection outside the scope of Mr. McGuire's direct testimony.
Well, I'm gonna overrule that. Overruled.
Can you repeat the question, please, Mr. Waymire?
Yeah, you just said you made your ROZ opinions based on the core data. That literally is what just came out of your sworn mouth, yes?
Yes, sir.
Will you explain to the commissioners the formula or methodology that you employed to calculate corrected oil saturation due to the expulsion of oil and water during depressurization as the core was removed?
I did some different sensitivity analysis by adjusting the core data by different percentages that would be based on losses, but I didn't think that that you needed to adjust the ones in the water management that much because it's claimed to be an ROZ, and let's see, how do I want to say this? I didn't think you really needed that much adjustment to the core data. The proof of needing a high adjustment to the core data would be if the water supply wells produced oil and they didn't. They effectively dropped the pressure near wellbore, and if there was producible oil there, they would have produced it given that depressurization of the near wellbore.
Okay, and again, qualifications, you've never had any ROZ experience before this case, right?
Well, yeah, neither has Empire's testifying employees that are testifying here.
Mr. McGuire, what question do you think I just asked you?
I gave you the answer.
My question is for Mr. McGuire. You had no ROZ experience whatsoever before this case. Do I have that right?
That would be accurate.
And then you volunteered, which wasn't what I asked about Empire's witnesses. I really hope you're not telling this commission that Mr. Meltzer doesn't have ROZ experience and that Dr. Trentum doesn't have ROZ. Do you want to adjust the sworn testimony you just gave a minute ago in response to a question I didn't ask?
I was specific to Empire's employees that are testifying.
Oh, the employee. Do you understand Empire has a whole pile of employees that have worked on ROZs for many, many years? Do you understand that employed by Empire right now, we could go to the Woodlands, Texas, and you could shake hands with numerous folks who have decades of experience on ROZ. Do you know that?
They didn't testify.
They chose witnesses who do have ROZ experience. If the idea is that Empire hasn't brought witnesses with ROZ experience, you can tell the commission they certainly did, didn't they?
I guess that would be accurate with Mr. Meltzer.
And so just to lead it, so we talked qualifications. Now we move to data review. You said core. You looked at core. Now, then I asked methodology, and I said, obviously you have to make a core oil adjustment. You agree that if you want to get to oil saturation, you have to make a core adjustment, don't you?
Yes, generally some core adjustment is warranted.
And I asked, what's your methodology here as the reservoir engineer in making core adjustment factors? Have you now had an opportunity to fairly and fully answer that question and tell the commission what your methodology was?
Yeah, I used a range of values. Talked with Dr. Davidson about that. I agreed with his methodology.
No, I want to ask, my question is what Preston McGuire did. In terms of your particular methodology on making a core adjustment, I want it in one place on this transcript. Tell the commissioners what your method for making core adjustment was.
I did a range when I was originally looking at the core, and then talked to Dr. Davidson and felt that his adjustments were reasonable.
You've had an opportunity. You've had an opportunity to fully and accurately answer my question on methodology.
Yeah, I told you what I did.
Do you see here on the Rhino well on the left?
I do.
Actually, let's start here. This was your slide. Is this the slide you actually testified to with Mr. Rankin yesterday?
It is.
And you could have configured this slide any way you want. In terms of things Preston McGuire created, you didn't create that many organic papers here. This is one of the ones you made. Yes.
I didn't hear a question. Yes, I created this figure.
In what you've termed water management zone, first, have you ever seen the OCD and its permitting speak to water management zones, or do they speak in terms of formations?
Generally, they speak in formations, but we had discussions with the OCD about our methodology, and they agreed with us.
I'm just trying, I just didn't, on all of the C103s, 105, 113, I didn't see anything that asked about a quote water management zone. That the OCD permitting doesn't make any question or consideration on water management zone. What they speak of is formations. Isn't that right?
That would be accurate.
Mr. Waymeyer, are you at a point where we could take our morning break?
Absolutely. Now's a logical spot.
All right, let's take our morning break, and let's be back at 10:30 for a continuation.
I noticed what it was, like halfway through that, I was like, I know.
Mr. Shavers, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. This is Sheila. I sent you an email with all of the information. Can you check your email and see if you got it?
Yeah, hold on for me just a second here and let me check this. I got it. Thank you so much.
Okay, sure. And if you need anything else, just contact me at that email address.
All right, sounds good.
Okay. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Mhm.
Mr. Shavers, are you back with us?
Yes, sir, I sure am.
All right. Are we ready to go in the room, Ms. Apodaca?
Yes, people are just filing back in.
Okay.
If you'll let me know when everyone is ready to go, I'll start my, give me a couple of seconds, I'll start my recording.
All right. Mr. Waymeyer, are you ready to proceed?
I am, thank you.
All right, Mr. Shavers, press your record button and get your fingers going.
We're ready.
Mr. McGuire, do you remember earlier your counsel objected and said the only documents y'all were required to produce were those that were associated with corrosion, scaling?
I heard Mr. Rankin say that.
As we see, due to severe pitting, entire injection tree was replaced. You would agree that that would be evidence of corrosion, chemical reactions, yes?
Objection asked and answered previously.
Mr.
Mr. McGuire testified.
Yeah, I've seen this before, Mr. Waymeyer. Why are we going over the same territory?
Because counsel just conceded that he didn't produce responsive documents. This document was never produced, deals with the corrosion issues. This document, casing is scaled up or corroded and not allowing to test. Counsel has stated on the record he was required to produce this document and he did not.
Well, we're not here to fight discovery battles. I mean, you can make the point for the record that it was within the scope of your production and wasn't produced, but it's neither here nor there for this witness or this proceeding.
Well, I guess my question then, Mr. McGuire, is just one question on this one. We agree that the slide I'm publishing here about the casing from 100 foot to surface is scaled up or corroded. That would certainly be a document evidencing corrosion or scaling in a well in the EMSU, isn't it?
The word corroded is on this document.
Do you know if this was given to Empire?
I do not.
Now, earlier you talked about there was no evidence of production of oil out of the water supply wells. Do you remember that testimony?
I do.
You're not seriously urging that there was not production of oil out of the water supply wells historically, are you?
There's no evidence. There's no reported oil associated with those wells.
Okay, well, now your answer is different. Did you just say reported oil?
I did say, yeah, there's no evidence that oil came out of those wells.
Have you been onto the MSU before?
Long time ago.
So you have been physically on the EMSU?
I've been to our facility.
On the EMSU?
Yes, our facility is in the EMSU.
Did you bother to go look at the tank configuration for the water supply wells and the Grayburg producers?
Did not, no.
Let me just, since you've been out there, let me ask, did you see two 10,000 barrel tanks that collect both the water supply water and the produced water from the Grayburg oil producers?
I don't know, maybe.
And are you aware that there is skim oil collected off of those tanks and then reported and sold?
Mr. Hearing Officer, objection to this line of questioning. Mr. Waymeyer is testifying, number one. Number two, Goodnight asked repeatedly for any documentation that there was any oil or skim oil produced from the water supply wells. And in Mr. West's deposition, he confirmed that there was no documentation of any production or skim oil from the water supply wells.
Okay, so, all right, well, Mr. Waymeyer, it's a fair objection. I mean, you're gonna have to lay more foundation. You can't just be stating facts. You got to show the witness evidence and then question him about it. So the objection is sustained.
Mr. McGuire, what I'm doing here is digging into your testimony, which is completely unfounded as an operational surface facility configuration matter, that you gave the commission that there was no oil produced out of water supply wells. You offered that testimony to this commission, haven't you?
No evidence that it was.
To be able to have an opinion of that, you would have to know what the tank battery configuration is in terms of how the water from the water supply wells is gathered in relation to the water coming off of the Grayburg producers. And you have done no investigation as an expert in this case into the tank configuration, have you?
Objection, Mr. Hearing Officer. Mr. McGuire was reasonably relying on Mr. West's own testimony in his deposition.
May I respond?
No, I'm going to overrule that objection. Go ahead and answer, Mr. McGuire.
Can you restate the question, please?
To have opinions about oil produced or not coming off of a water supply well, 101, an engineer like Mr. Macbeth would have done this work. You would need to know what the tank battery configuration is. Where is the water gathered? Is it commingled with other water? Where? Wouldn't you?
Well, if it's commingled with other water, that you can't say that oil, that skim oil, came from the water supply wells. If it's commingled, if there's skim in that tank and it's commingled with a bunch of different wells, you don't know where that oil came from.
You also couldn't.
Chevron metered that, and they reported no oil from the water supply wells.
You also could not testify that there's not oil out of the water supply wells, is the point.
There's no evidence that there was.
Do you understand that when you say metered, this is like literally a water bottle sample once a month is what you take off of a water supply well in terms of reporting to the OCD? Do you understand what the water reporting composition protocol is?
Yeah, they have to report the water, volume of water, volume of oil, and volume of gas, and the oil and gas was 0 for the life of those wells.
Do you understand the sample size is literally the size of a water bottle, and it's about once a month?
Sorry, is there some?
No.
Yeah, there's documents out there where you have to report how much water came out, how much oil came out, how much gas came out. It's 0 for the life of those wells.
I'm only because you've put your hand up and claimed to be a engineering expert in this case. This is why you're getting the questions. As you talk about water composition, do you understand that is a water bottle taken once a month? Literally one water bottle size. If you're talking about water composition, that's the size of it.
I feel like we're talking about two different things here.
In terms of volumes being commingled or not, you also have no clue about what's commingled or where between Grayburg producers and water supply wells, do you?
Yeah, well, you're representing to me that it's all commingled with the water from the Grayburgs. So you don't know if the oil that's in that skim tank came from the water supply wells. It probably came from the Grayburg wells.
What would be the other explanation?
I don't think there is one.
You said probably. Well, where else could the oil have come from?
All right, I'd change my answer. It definitely came from the Grayburg wells.
Okay. We talked, this is where we left off all ago. This is your slide. And we visited earlier about water management zone. That is not any nomenclature you're familiar with the OCD ever using. And again, this was your slide you created?
It was a modified slide, yes.
In your water management zone, you can tell the commission, this is where y'all are injecting water right now?
Yes, we inject into the water management zone, but we do not inject near these wells in this figure here.
What's all this green where you're injecting salt water? Since this is your slide.
That's where OPS has calculated what I feel to be unreasonable oil saturations.
Oh, so you can tell the commission that from your slide, the green is Mr. Burkhead's oil saturation calculations?
Yes, those are them. Yes.
If the commission finds Mr. Burkhead's testimony credible, you can also tell the commission that you would be watering those out, wouldn't you?
Not necessarily. I mean, if it's truly ROZ, then it's not going to move and it's not being watered out.
Wouldn't that also explain why there's not oil out of the water supply wells, according to you?
Well, no, because the water supply wells used a test method that the ROZ experts have discussed in their literature, and they effectively tested the ROZ zone, and it was negative.
We're moving over to I want to focus on this slide. Do you see the Rhino wells reflected here on the left? And we talked yesterday that you have perfs all the way in the upper San Andres, even by your agreement on San Andres, right?
In the water, in that Rhino well, yes, I guess yeah, sure.
Can you agree with me as a geologist and engineer that water, and you see Lovington sand is beneath where you're injecting?
Mm-hmm.
Water's going to move up dip, up structure, isn't it?
Not necessarily. And number two, those perfs, as we discussed yesterday, aren't taking any water.
Have you shown the commission any evidence of that whatsoever?
We went through that yesterday with the spinner survey. You presented the spinner survey to me. We went through it.
Yeah, I fear you do not know how to read this spinner survey. When have you had to read a spinner survey in your career?
All the time when we run them here.
Okay. I'm just going to leave that one to Mr. Lampkin and Dr. Ampoma. With respect to the, I think I've made the point on this one. Well, I've got this one on the Rhino. You just explained, I want the commissioners to have this as they take it away and analyze the credibility of your testimony. What off of this spinner data makes you think that there is no water going into the upper perfs?
Okay. So if we look at the spinner survey, the gray curve there, we can see that the rate decreases at the packer. So you go from an open or a more a smaller diameter pipe to a larger diameter pipe in the casing. So that's what that first big jump is. And then we can see it's a constant rate for a number of feet there, indicating that no water is leaving the well until you get down to the next set of perfs. There's a little bit that happens there. And then once you get down to, approximately 48, 45, that's where the spinner stops, indicating that all the water is leaving leaving the well, or the remaining water is leaving the well at that depth.
Hold on, the remaining water. You are seriously suggesting that water isn't entering all the perfs above the last one?
Well,
let me re-ask.
We can talk about the perfs. If you point to one, I can tell you.
This perf, how on earth can you say that there is no water going into that perf?
Because the spinner survey is constant at that depth, indicating no water is leaving the format or leaving the well.
You've had an opportunity to fully explain your answer on that, on your method.
Yeah, just
so looking at this survey, which of these perfs is getting all of the water?
Well, according to this, the vast majority of the water is going out right around 48, 45. So that's going to be, do we have maybe a little shallower than that? So I would say it's those two perfs right where your cursor is.
48, 45 right here?
Well, yeah,
there's no perfs at 48, 45. How on earth could you tell this commission that water's going out at 48, 45 when there's no perfs there?
Because there's no flow below 48, 45. So there's no more water passing that propeller.
So where, looking at the survey, according to you, is all of the water going?
The vast majority of it looks to be going into those two perfs that are right above your cursor.
Just these two. This is your testament. Out of this entire well, those are the two perfs that's taking all of the water.
Not all of it.
Where's the rest?
There's a few that are going in maybe the next two perfs up, but there's no flow going into 43 or that top perf.
If the commission were to believe you that only these two perfs are getting the water, what would that, if we look at this like a bubble map, what would that do to the geographic area of influence? How fast, if they accepted that as correct, how fast is that water passing the 5 acres, moving hundreds and thousands of feet away?
Objection. Mischaracterizes Mr. McGuire's in testimony he just gave, and it's getting back into the questions about trespass, which the hearing officer already ruled on. So number one, mischaracterizes Mr. McGuire's testimony he just gave, and then also is addressing an issue that the hearing officer already ruled on about trespass.
This is not a matter of trespass. This is a matter of the plume expanding very rapidly on a different net pay than what Goodnight has provided this commission.
All right, I didn't hear the word trespass, but rephrase the question.
Mr. McGuire, what I understand you wanting to tell this commission now is that somehow off of this particular survey reading, it's your opinion that the vast majority of the water is going into these two little perfs here that would be maybe 60 feet? Am I 60 feet of pay?
Probably four. Well, the perfs are 20-foot shots, I believe. So the perfs are 40 feet. But yes, there's porosity across that entire interval. So I'll go with you with your 60 feet.
This would be behaving very differently than a vast ocean of San Andreas that goes into Texas, isn't it?
What do you mean?
You're saying the only, after you've selected the perf locations, the only perfs that are actually taking water are just these two in this little 40, 50, 60 feet of what you would call disposal pay.
That's what the data suggests.
So what does that mean about how quickly that's going to move laterally? If only those two perfs, according to you, are taking the water, is the water going to be moved much quicker laterally or slower laterally than if all of the perfs were contributing to the disposal?
It would be quicker.
I do want to talk about the Ted Williams. The Ted Williams well, where is that well in relation to EMSU?
It's outside the EMSU.
How close?
I don't know, maybe a mile or so.
Within 2 miles of the existing EMSU oil unit?
Yeah, I believe it's within 2 miles of the boundary.
If the commission is left with some idea on St. Andreas being this vast ocean, there were originally perfs put in the bottom in lower St. Andreas by Goodnight, right?
Yes, sir.
Why did you abandon those perfs?
We did not abandon them.
Why did you have to add new perfs?
Because we reached an agreement with a protester. We had an agreement with a company called Penrock, and they didn't want us to perforate above a certain depth. We came to an agreement after showing them data, got them comfortable that we could perf higher in the zone, and they agreed, and so we added the perfs.
Didn't Penrock sell out? I thought they sold their position.
I'm talking about at the time that this work was done.
Did Penrock sell their position?
I think so. That sounds right.
Did you reach a new settlement agreement with Penrock, or did they just sell?
No, we had conversations with the principals of Penrock.
Why was Penrock concerned about injection into the upper St. Andrews?
They thought it might reach their gas zone, and then we showed them the data on the pressure differentials, and they agreed with us and said we could go ahead and perforate that zone.
When was Penrock concerned about injection in the St. Andrews?
When we originally filed the permit to inject.
When was that?
2017, 2018 timeframe, if I'm remembering right.
So if the commission happened to have heard or seen written testimony about Empire being the first oil company concerned about injection into the San Andres, that would not be true. In fact, Pinrock had concern and objected over injection into the San Andres, didn't they?
And then they got comfortable with it and allowed us to proceed.
Did that timing coincide with when they sold their position?
No.
Now let's just continue looking at this. If I understand your methodology now about where water is actually injecting, so you started with the red perfs, then you went back and perfed into the upper San Andres, right?
That would be, well, depends on what you're calling upper, but according to this figure here, yeah, there looks like there's 2 perforations in what somebody is calling the upper.
Isn't this yours?
No.
And so that the commission understands, according to your methodology, all of the injection would be going into the upper 100-ish feet?
No, I don't believe so. I'd have to, let's see, what are these depths?
Let's get this right in the record. Here's 4,600, here's 4,800. So aren't we just measuring here to here under your methodology?
Yeah, so it says spinner went to 0 at 4,800. Yeah, that looks to be roughly accurate based on that spinner survey. So yeah, we had that shows we had mud losses there. So that's appears to be a very underpressured part of the reservoir. So it makes sense to me that a lot of the water is going into to that zone. Looks like the spinner was fairly constant from when it came out of the tubing until it got down to about that 48. So yeah, I guess I have no reason to disagree that a lot of the water's going out roughly about where you have it plotted there at 4,800.
So you think it's just this perf?
No, I think it's probably some of those other ones, but it looks like it's constant for at least those top few. Kind of hard to tell at this scale.
So which of these, based on your methodology off of the spinner survey, which of these perfs would you say is receiving the water?
It's probably that one right where your cursor is. We got higher porosity right there, so that's probably taking a lot of the water.
So this would be explained, and you're using porosity as a stand-in for permeability, aren't you?
Sure.
So what you've picked to say this is where the water's is based on a high permeability streak. True?
Higher porosity, and I'm mostly basing it off of the spinner survey that you have in front of me here.
So this would be a permeability story, not a pressure story, wouldn't it?
Well, if there's obviously a low pressure there, so I think it's probably both.
So again, I just want the commission to understand your methodology. I've given you the spinner survey off to the left. We did it with the right. You wanted, because it's in the upper San Andres above the Lovington Sand, you wanted to insist no water's going into that perf in the Rhino. Walk me through the same methodology you would use here and tell the commissioners which of these 5 perfs is getting the water.
I think
Objection asked and answered.
Yeah, Mr. Waymeyer, he has answered that question. I could even answer it, and I don't know anything about this stuff.
I truly don't know. If it's these 2, I have another question. If he's saying it's all 5, I don't know how he correlates that.
Well, that's not what he said. He said it's the one where where you had the cursor. So objection sustained.
So am I talking about the right perf that's getting all of the water in the Ted Williams well, according to you?
Not all of it, but a lot of it.
Which other ones are getting it then?
There looks, well, I'd have to, the depth lines on the spinner survey are I can't see them. So what I would do if I had more time to actually thoroughly evaluate this, I would get a high quality image, zoom in, plot the perfs, and do a further evaluation. I'm just giving you my My answer, as I see it, sitting right here today.
How many feet then, when you say the vast majority of the water is going into this one, if they want to know how many feet are accepting the water, how many feet is that?
Looks like about, well, these perfs are we use 20-foot guns, so that's 20-foot section. So a lot of the water is going in that 20 feet. There's probably some going into the next one up.
Okay, so
And
again,
maybe the next one up, but then, sorry, go ahead.
No, so as we talk about pluming, if they believed you that it's only going into this approximately 20 feet, what does that mean about how fast horizontally that's going to plume laterally?
Radial in a radial flow model, it would increase it, but it could connect to some other vertical just outside the wellbore, some vertical perm pathways in this reservoir below the confining layer, and I mean we haven't done the plume analysis, so
this is calculated as of June of 2025. It would be your testimony to the commissioners that on net to gross, these wells are not behaving where it's getting 50% net to gross in terms of injection interval and what's accepting water. True?
Not at the time that spinner survey was taken.
And this model's 10% net to gross, which that would even be way too big of a percentage if we believed your methodology on the Rhino and the Ted Williams. Isn't that right?
Sure.
You're talking like 40 feet out of 1,000, right?
What it looked like.
And so just to illustrate here, I know you haven't done any plume modeling, but the plume would look a lot more like this over on the right in the green that I'm indicating around the Rhino, the Banks, the Sosa, the Yas. Isn't that right?
If the well is flowing radially.
Which would, as we talk about a 2-mile halo, that would mean the Yas is already injecting within the EMSU. That water's already reached there as of June of 25 on an assumption of 10% net to gross, which based on the 2 wells you looked at in the spinner survey would be too high, should be even lower. True?
That's what this figure is depicting.
And even using what you're saying now is too conservative. If we carry it out to June of 2029, the graphic on the right would demonstrate the pluming there as well, wouldn't it? Yes.
I'm sorry. Can you rephrase that or re-ask it? Sorry.
If we carry out your volumes to June of 2029, we're just going 5 years out from 2024. At 10% net to gross, the model on the right would show pluming that's basically enclosed the entire EMSU, wouldn't it?
What volumes are you using for this projection?
Goodnight's historical volumes up through 2024 to calculate going forward.
What is it?
I don't have it fingertips. I mean, why have y'all not modeled the pluming? Since you're the one sticking it in, why is Goodnight not modeled the pluming? Why are we having to do this for you?
It's just something that we have not done at this time.
And so again, we're using June of 2024, your actual volumes through June of 2024 to model additional production on the same volumes that you'd been doing up to that point. And through June of 2029, 5 out years, you've at 10%, you've already got the entire EMSU covered.
Mr. Hearing Officer, I'm not sure if that was a question or if that was Mr. Waymire testifying, so objection.
Rephrase, Mr. Waymire. It's ambiguous.
In terms of a plume modeling, has Empire modeled this correctly? Use your historical volumes, calculate what you claim your net to gross percentage of injection pay would be, and then calculate laterally how far that moves out over time. Is that a fair methodology?
Well, I don't, did he use our average injection over the past however many years we've been injecting, or did he assume that we're injecting 24/7, 365 at some rate?
My understanding is this is off of actuals.
Well, this is June of 2029, so it can't be actuals. I'm just trying to
It's
understand
modeling.
what he used for his assumption of the injection volumes to from today to June of 2029.
I actually just had a question come in. They think they saw it on the video. Are you reading off of your cell phone right now?
Nope, playing with a piece of paper.
The coming back to the modeling again through 2034 out years. I guess you can't comment on the plume model because you've just done no plume model whatsoever, have you?
Haven't done the analysis. I have an idea of where the water is going, but I don't think it looks like that.
You would agree, though, that based on your interpretations of the spinner surveys, 10% net to gross, that would be too conservative.
Objection, vague question.
I've got a problem with this whole line of questions because it feels to me like there's not enough foundation laid for the witness to be able to, have meaningful answers here. Mr. Webmeyer, I think you need to lay more foundation if you want to go here. Otherwise, we're just, it's basically you testifying about the information that went into why we're seeing these green circles.
Thank you, Mr. Harwood. Go ahead.
I'll sustain that objection.
If the commissioners understand this, Mr. McGuire, I just want to talk about the 10% net to gross. Based on your methodology and interpreting the spinner surveys on what net pay is actually accepting injection volumes, you can tell the commissioners with positivity that 10% net to gross, based on your actual observed experience in the Ted Williams and the Rhino, would be too conservative. It should be a lower number that would have the effect of expanding the circle out faster and larger. True?
Not necessarily. Some of those other, if that one perf were to build pressure, then it would push back and it would force water in more perforations.
We're going to talk permits very briefly and we're done. We covered some of this with Mr. Aleman. I'm not going to belabor it, but the first when you were going to the Devonian, you have actual knowledge within Goodnight that certified mail return receipt requested was sent to XTO at this Englewood, Colorado address, right?
Yes,
as
sir.
well as its Fort Worth corporate headquarters.
Yes.
And you have enough knowledge from the industry that you know XTO's corporate headquarters are in Fort Worth, don't you?
Yeah, at that time.
Now where are they?
Houston. Well, I guess at
Spring, Texas.
They've been purchased by ExxonMobil, so I would the ExxonMobil's corporate headquarters are actually in Dallas, but the main campus is in Houston.
It's Spring, Texas, and the one you're referring to in Dallas is actually Las Colinas. They're near the Pioneer campus. But the point being, you sent the XTO notice to XTO corporate headquarters return receipt requested when you were going to the Devonian. True or false?
Mr. Hearing Officer, objection to this line of questioning. Mr. Allman's company did this notice. Mr. Allman was examined on this issue by Empire's counsel. This is not within the direct scope of Mr. McGuire's testimony.
All right. Well, I've been pretty liberal in not holding Mr. Waymeyer to the precise scope of your questioning, and I will extend you the same courtesy on redirect. So overruled.
One more time for me, Mr. Waymire.
When Goodnight was permitting to the Devonian, they sent the notice of the application, return receipt requested to XTO's corporate headquarters. Yes.
That's what this appears, yes.
But then you changed the name and decided you were going to come up shallower. Isn't that right?
That is correct.
I want to nail down the depths. The permitted depths were 4,320 feet to 5,625 feet. Yes.
Yeah, we're still talking about Rhino here.
Yep.
That sounds right.
I'm going to calculate that, and you disagree with me if I've got it off. That's an interval of 1,305 feet, right?
$13.05.
All right, we'll hold that number. And I'm going to write it down here. So 4320 to 5625. Do you know, is public notice required to also be run in the newspaper?
It is.
Is it important so that the public has an opportunity to object?
Yeah, that's my understanding. That's why you do that.
You would agree it's important.
That's why you do this, yes.
Here's the publication. What depths did Goodnight report in the publication it ran?
It says San Andreas 4,500 to 5,350.
That's wrong, isn't it?
Those numbers are different than what we just looked at. That is correct.
If we do that math, that would be an interval of 850 feet, wouldn't it?
Math again. I agree with you.
And that would actually be 180 feet deeper than what Goodnight actually permitted and has placed perforations into, isn't it?
That's different than what was permitted. I'd have to remind myself of the perforations.
And that would only be 850 feet, which would mean that the notice was different than the permit by 455 feet. That's not immaterial, is it?
They're different.
The question was, that's not an immaterial difference, is it?
Yeah, they're different. 1 foot could be considered material.
When publication was run, why did Goodnight not accurately identify so that the public could protest or not the depths that were intended to be perforated?
Objection. Mr. Hearing Officer, Mr. Waymire knows that Mr. McGuire was not responsible for this area at this time. This was in 2019.
Overruled.
Why did Goodnight not accurately tell the public the depth in the legally required publication, the actual depths it was going to put perfs into?
That was not the responsibility of Goodnight. That was the responsibility of the permitting consultant that did the work.
Who was that consultant? Well, so like the 2.5 million pounds of hazardous waste that ended up in Oregon, that not Goodnight's fault, somebody else's fault.
Objection argumentative.
It is sustained.
Desco Cattle Company, they're also suing Goodnight right now in the EMSU, aren't they?
Objection relevance.
Mr. Waymire, where are we going with this? Is this character evidence?
Yeah, we could put that, but it's right in the EMSU. Maybe the commissioners would like to know what else the wonderful operator Goodnight's being sued for in the EMSU.
All right, sustained.
Now, when you came up from the Devonian into the San Andreas, why did you not send this to the same XTO address that was used not long before? and instead sent it to Midland.
Mr. Hearing Officer, objection. These exact lines of questions were addressed to the person that was responsible for this portion of the testimony, Mr. Nathan Alleman, and he addressed this question on the record.
All right, well, maybe we'll hear a different answer. Overruled.
Yeah, my understanding is that they used the addresses that are associated with the OGRID number for XTO, and that address was changed on the OCD website.
Now, within the EMSU, I mean, we can look through the permit, but you know, nowhere on the permit applications for any of the SWDs in the EMSU was the EMSU oil unit identified. Isn't that true?
I'd have to go look at the permit applications, but I guess I'll take your word for it.
Now, I asked yesterday and you said, can you show it to me? Do you remember when I said, but on other wells that were outside of the EMSU, you did show the EMSU boundaries? Do you remember when you said, can you show it to me?
Yeah.
And I told you I would. You remember that?
I think so.
This is your TED SWD, aka Schneider 28 application. You see, this is 2018, just to help orient the commissioners. Am I identifying the right location of the TED?
Yes, sir.
It's within 2 miles of the EMSU.
It is.
And here, as part of the permit applications, do you see the EMSU identified with the red boundaries in connection with that SWD application?
Which red boundary are you referring to?
Eunice Monument South Unit. I'm over it with my cursor, and it's got, there's a legend over here where you can actually trace EMSU boundary.
I guess I don't see I see the words EMSU, but I'm not seeing the boundary being posted.
Why did you identify the Eunice Monument South unit on your TED application, but didn't do it for the wells inside the EMSU?
I didn't do this work.
Was it somebody working for Goodnight?
Yeah, it was probably the permitting consultants, sure.
Here on the TED permit, Goodnight identified it as being both open and closed. This is outside of EMSU. Do you remember Dr. Ampoma's questions about closed system, open system?
I think so, yes.
Can you explain, and we know that on the ones inside the EMSU, it was identified as closed. Can you identify the wellbore configuration on the TED that would be different than the one, for example, Rhino, that we looked at in detail with Mr. Alleman?
I don't think that there's any difference. This is referring to, I believe, my understanding is that this is talking about the gathering system, and it is a closed system because it's all on pipe. So I would disagree that this is an open system at the surface.
This is your permit. I didn't make this, you made this.
I did not make this.
My question, I'm going to get an answer to my question. If the commissioners would like to go back and understand the wellbore or gathering configuration for the Rhino, in which you told the OCD it was a closed system, versus the configuration for gathering and wellbore of the TED, what is the difference in terms of the facilities or drilling configuration between those wells, if there is one?
No difference to my knowledge.
This is just an example. Do you see that this report, the reporting the spudding of the well was only filed on April 4th, 2024.
Yes, I do see that. Which well is this specific to?
There's many instances where it's years after the fact before required papers are filed with the OCD. Why does Goodnight wait years to file papers that are required back in a matter of 20 to 60 days?
Sorry, I thought I heard something.
Show you more examples. Here's another example. Injection commenced 2018. But you're only filing it with the OCD in April of 2024. Why as a matter of habit do y'all wait years before you file some of these basic required papers?
So at the time for a lot of this stuff, that was our understanding that it was the responsibility of the drilling consultant for a lot of these regulatory filings. We did a self-audit and realized that those filings did not get submitted, self-identified, worked with the OCD to get all of the necessary filings sent to the regulator.
Pass the witness.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Waymeyer. All right. Rice, any questions for Mr. McGuire?
No questions for this witness.
Pilot, any questions for Mr. McGuire?
No questions, Mr. Hearing Examiner.
All right, that brings us to the commission. But I see that the time is 11:17 a.m. And we have to break at 11:30. So I don't want anybody to feel like they need to be pressured into getting all their questions answered before we go to the lunch break. So let me ask you, Chairman Rosatos, what are your thoughts on that subject? And and maybe the commissioners have a preference whether they prefer not to break up their examination of this witness or proceed at this time, realizing we only have 15 minutes to get going on this.
So that is a good question, Mr. Hearing Officer. Commissioner Ampoma, Commissioner Lamkin, did you want to just start after lunch, or did you want to start a few questions now, realizing that we only have a few minutes?
I definitely do have a lot, so probably after lunch will be good for me.
Okay, Commissioner Lamkin?
Either way is fine with me. I only have a handful of questions.
Okay. Mr. Hearing Officer, being that we only have 12 minutes before we would have to break, let's just extend the lunch hour. We'll come back at 1:30, and then the commissioners can have the afternoon to be able to ask their questions.
Okay, that sounds great. All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. With that said, then we'll give our court reporters' fingers a rest, and we'll all be back here at 1:30. Have a great lunch.
Thank you.
Shoot.